Welcome to Channel X TV. Delighted to be here with Andrew Norman, who runs Sendcloud in the UK.
So, Chris,
welcome, Andrew. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Good to see you again.
Excellent. So, tell us a bit about Sendcloud. What do you guys do?
Sendcloud has actually been around for quite a long time, about 12 years in mainland Europe, and a relatively emerging player in the UK market. Sendcloud is a multi-channel delivery management platform, so it helps you process your orders and manage your orders from a number of different selling channels, and then figure out the best way of getting that order to the consumer.
And selling channels, they've expanded so much over recent years. It used to be, I sell on eBay and I sell on Amazon,
right.
and I probably sell in Germany and France on eBay and Amazon as well, but it's all like Amazon or all like eBay, and eBay can even run it all from one account. But what are the new channels people are selling? Which ones really stand out for you, either in the UK or...
Yeah, there's a lot, right, as you know, because people want to be selling in as many places as they can. We've definitely seen a lot of the retailer-led marketplaces, I guess Power of Miracle and other platforms, and then, of course, the TikTok phenomena that we've seen in recent months.
The Miracle-style platforms are the B&Qs and the Debenhams and the Superdrugs. And then we've got Marketplace are powering Tesco's, and TikTok. What are you seeing there? Because everything I hear about TikTok Shop is just the growth is phenomenal.
There is unbelievable hyper growth. I think it kind of gets used as a complementary channel for some brands and retailers with the more traditional marketplaces or selling channels. But also, we've seen, and I have friends that are almost only exclusively TikTok, and that is their primary selling channels. So
and I've heard numbers that are staggering from TikTok, but what I'm kind of interested in is what's the user experience, because we all knew what we're getting with Amazon, because Amazon backed the sale and that's it.
Yeah.
And the retailer-led marketplaces, they're kind of, if you're buying from a Tesco's or a Debenhams, a B&Q, a Superdrug,
this brand is trust.
It's the brand trust you're buying.
Yeah, totally.
TikTok, I'm not saying they haven't got any trust because they've got a lot of place, but it feels a bit like the Wild West. But even there, consumers are getting a totally different experience to maybe what they were getting 10 years ago. What do they actually want today?
I think what I've seen is it's quite curated. Sometimes the product range is very, very specific and very targeted, if that makes sense. Whereas, as you said, on the sort of broad line, retailer-led marketplaces or more mainstream marketplaces, there's a much bigger range of products. So TikTok, my observation is very, very focused, very, very niche, and very, very targeted. So, of course, instant gratification, speed is a big part of it, right? Because they're typically very, very fast-moving items. They normally have crazy amounts of sales in a very short space of time.
And I get that because you can't just list on TikTok and expect it to sell. Like you put it in TikTok Shop and no one ever see it. It's all about the influencers,
right.
And when it goes viral. But when a product goes viral, that must cause sort of Sendcloud a bit of a problem as well, because you suddenly got all this data coming through from no sales yesterday to 3,000 sales today.
That's right.
And you're saying it's instant gratification, so are consumers kind of like want the Amazon experience, like buy it today and it arrives tomorrow, or are they a bit more patient? Or?
I think it does vary across channels. I mean, I'll come back to the TikTok specific one in a second, but I think we know that there are subtly different consumers that sit behind each channel, and therefore their expectations are different. Potentially an eBay buyer might be slightly different, or the eBay expectation is different from Amazon, is different from others, right? But we all kind of want the same thing. In our world, we kind of break it down into 4 buckets: fastest, safest, cheapest, and greenest. If you really strip it down, right? That's kind of the logical way of thinking it. And so we as consumers, but also we as brands and retailers, want to provide different delivery options and delivery experiences to that. So yeah, certainly to answer your question about TikTok, I mean, those kind of flash sales or huge spikes, it's definitely a challenge, and buyer experience can definitely suffer, which is where I think platforms like ours can really help, because it helps you automate a lot of manual process, which would be quite difficult to manage.
And I'm also interested, when we were in the pandemic and COVID, everyone was sat at home and it was great because everything arrived because you were at home. But then people started going back to work for the sort of the Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, and work from home Monday and Friday. But now big companies, even Amazon themselves, are saying we want everyone back in the office 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Have you seen any changes on delivery, whether people are going for nominated day or whether they're going for a collection point or a locker delivery, and there's demand growing for that, or are people still just getting stuff delivered to work?
A mixture of them. It's a great question. Yeah, we definitely see much more optionality, meaning the brands and retailers are providing more options, but the consumers also expect more options. I would say as a general trend, out of home, as it's referred to, meaning, you know, pick-up points, lockers, there's definitely a large area of growth for exactly the reasons you described, because you know we're not all at home every day, but definitely more choice, more optionality. I think most of the carriers we work with are definitely raising their options and their standards, as it were. And out of home, most of them are trying to figure out how they provide some kind of out of home option for the consumers. And that's generally what we see.
Now, I've got to say, I can totally see the point of Sendcloud for collection from. There are so many marketplaces now,
right.
and not just marketplaces, but my website, my mobile app, my marketplaces, my socials, my TikToks. So I get the collecting from multiple platforms, but can you talk to what's happening on the other side with the carriers?
Yeah.
So I'm hearing in the industry that people are using ever more carriers than before. Last Christmas we had carriers that were putting limitations, saying once we look at your forecast you can't come over, but also carriers that were saying, well, if your forecast don't hit your forecast, there's going to be surcharges for under capacity as well. So what are you seeing from retailers and brands on how they're selecting carriers, how many they're using, are they using more or fewer than before, and are they choosing carriers for different services, or is it purely just getting out as fast as possible and we're using contracts for pricing?
Some brands and retailers are definitely more, you know, they kind of stick with less carriers, some of them, but generally there is much more optionality. You know, and one of the things that we really help is kind of help people with the logic and the rules, so they can actually allocate rules at a per order level. So you can basically choose what is the right carrier and the right service to get that order to the consumer, if that makes sense. So I think the point is, definitely more options, and to the previous point, we're talking about more specific options of, do I want that delivered to my home, do I want to deliver that delivered to a locker, and that's kind of what we typically see. The other part I would say in terms of your question, we see a lot more focus on, as well as just getting the delivery on what we call the outbound, a lot more focus on tracking, a lot more focus on returns and what we call post-ship or post-purchase. So, you know, as you know, you've been in this market a long time, getting the order to the consumer is only one part of that journey.
I always want tracking, I have to say. I just want to be able to go and check when's it arriving. Most of the time I don't really care if it's going to be 1 day, 5 days or 3 days. I just want to know when it's going to arrive.
So I guess I would say I'm a bit biased, right? But I'd say buyer experience is clearly more than the outbound, you know, getting the order out the door to the consumer. There's a lot more around that, you know, and we spend a lot more time now with people on returns and on tracking, because, you know, they get hit by the WISMO, where is my order, you know, that can have huge operational overhead for them, particularly in peak, or any time of year, but particularly in peak. So we're really trying to evolve more into how do we provide that overall delivery experience, not just on the actual outbound.
So I've got to ask, the big thing that's coming down the line is obviously Royal Mail's second class service. Will it go to 3 day a week, which if I'm getting it Monday, Wednesday, Friday 1 week and my delivery is Tuesday, Thursday the next, how do you even predict which day it's going to be without looking up your postcode and check with Royal Mail? Right. With second class post being kind of likely to flex and be a slower service in all effects, where are retailers going to go? Are they going to move, do you think, more to track services, whether it be with Royal Mail, with the likes of Yodel or Every, or are consumers just going to have to accept a slower service, and will they accept a slower service?
It's a very price sensitive area, as you know, right? Carriers are fighting hard for the business. I would say in general terms, the volumes in the UK market are relatively flat. So there is a lot of movement of volume from carrier A to carrier B.
I don't think the economy is helping that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a reflection of kind of where we're at right now. So I think to answer your question maybe slightly differently, there's definitely less loyalty to specific carriers than maybe there was, and people are really looking at different carriers and providing multiple carriers, and really trying to provide, you know, great service, but also there's a huge amount of price pressure on carriers because we as consumers want everything for nothing. Right? So,
of course we do.
So that does cascade down.
I think you mentioned returns earlier. I think it's interesting the number of retailers that are starting to say, okay, we can give you a really good price and
Yeah.
perhaps even free delivery, but you're going to have to pay a returns charge if you're returning for the returns carriage. Do you see that as sort of growing, or will consumers stand for it, or is that something you think consumers will fight back against?
I think returns are still, and what we call post-purchase is definitely, we're a bit biased, but we would say that's kind of the new battleground. I think getting orders to the consumer, that's a relatively solved problem, if you know what I mean. But everything that happens past that point is definitely an area. People want, to be able to track the item all the way through its journey. They want to be able to return it really, really easily. And so, we would expect to see returns as an area become more and more kind of competitive. And more importantly, a big point of difference for brands and retailers. We know that it has an impact on conversion rates in, I guess, regular e-commerce stores. So return has a direct impact on conversion rate in the checkout. So we know that returns is a very sensitive part of the overall.
And I think, to be fair, with the retailer-led marketplace, it's going to get even more complicated because they may even get returns in store, which is going to be interesting.
When you have inventory coming from a bunch of different places, we talked to a couple of retailers that are using extended aisle, I think they call it, range dropship. Yeah, that is super complicated for returns, no question.
So getting back to Sendcloud, it's obviously there's lots of demands both from the cost structure for the retailer, the cost structure for the carrier, the demands from the consumer. Where is Sendcloud sitting in the middle there? And just literally, for someone that's maybe not heard of Sendcloud before and not looked at you in depth, what can you do for a retailer that pleases all three, keeps their margins high, keeps the customer happy, and marries in with service charges from the carriers?
Yeah, I think we help businesses scale at its core, right? So I think in terms of cost, we know that we can help people get more product out the door with the same amount of headcount. So we can definitely help with not adding more cost to your business. We can definitely provide optionality to your delivery experience. For more emerging brands and retailers, we also have discounted rates. So if you don't have access to carrier rates or leverage with the carrier, then you can also use our rates, which is something that may apply to some people that are listening to this.
And I think that helps enormously when you need some emergency assistance.
That's
whether
right.
it's you've hit the cap with your carrier and you can't ship anymore and you just need another one, or you've got a relatively limited number of parcels but maybe they need more insurance because they're just over the limit and not enough to make it worth having a contract, but we can use your rates.
Exactly. I think my summary would be, technology can enable businesses, but it can also sometimes hold them back. And our mission is to really help, brands and retailers sort of sell across multiple channels in multiple countries, and where we sit in the middle of that whole order and delivery management piece. And that's the bit where we think, we have a good track record of helping businesses scale in that area.
Excellent. We'll put the URL for Sendcloud below this video, but for those that want to get a hold of you, Andrew, I know you're always happy to speak to people. How do they get a hold of you? Is it LinkedIn, email?
LinkedIn, yeah, they can get me, andrew.norman@sendcloud.com. Reach out anytime, I'll be happy to help.
Brilliant. Andrew, thank you so much.
Great talking to you.